How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Brooks Running reminds us that we're all powered by something. Whether it's the me-time energy of a run after a day at the office, the electrifying energy of your first marathon, or the infectious energy of a group run with your friends. No matter what energy powers you, Brooks has gear specifically designed to unleash it. So lace up and let it out. Let's run there. Visit brooksrunning.com today to learn more.
You're the owner of a small business, which means you're also the tech guy, and HR, and personal assistant, and head honcho, and intern. You could use another pair of hands, like the experts you'll find at Verizon Small Business Days, August 11th through 17th. Get a free tech check, special deals, and more. Call 1-800-483-4428 or visit verizon.com/smallbusiness to book your appointment. Verizon Business.
Who says you can't be the topic of conversation for all the right reasons? The Hyundai Tucson Hybrid pairs bold presence with advanced technology and sleek style. It's everything you didn't know you needed in an SUV and then some. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more.
Welcome into the Tour Coach, everybody. I'm your host, Tony Ruggiero. It's the start of a new year, 2025. We've been doing the Dew Sweepers Golf Show for almost 20 years, actually right at 20 years, and it's morphed into the Tour Coach podcast from our early XM PGA Tour radio days, and I want to thank you for following along. 2025 is going to be exciting for us. We got a lot of great stuff going on. If you followed along, you know that the Tour Coach they're the stories, they're the people, the conversations that I meet, whether they're players, fitness experts, mental coaches, performance coaches, just the people I meet along our journey, whether it's teaching on the PGA, Korn Ferry, Live Tour, LPGA Symetra Tours, or college players, but especially down at my home at Old Palm Golf Club in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. These are all the stories and the people that I run into that I think can add some value to your instruction program, help you play the game of golf better. So I hope you enjoy what we got coming. And to kick off the year, we're going to do something special. First of all, we couldn't do the Tour Coach without our longtime sponsors, especially Shrixon Cleveland Golf. Been with them for over 20 years. Mitch McConnell, Buick GMC, here in Mobile and all over the country. Mitch has been such a huge proponent of us. And you've got our local sponsors, Stokely's Midtown Garden Express, Taylor Martino and Rowan, and you can't forget the folks at Vineyard Vines and Bushnell Golf. And Bushnell's been so instrumental as well in pushing and helping us with a lot of our content. We're going to continue to push out what I think is great content, all designed to help you get better at the game of golf. And so we're going to kick off a contest this year in 2025. It's going to run through the end of January, past the PGA show. All you have to do is go to one of our Pro Work episodes. The latest one is with Joey Merlino. It's over 130,000 views already, in which Colby and I, we take on the boss and become the pivot boss, fix Joey Merlino's golf swing. Go on one of the Pro Work episodes and comment #ProWork. #ProWork for an opportunity to win a new set of the brand new Shrixon irons. When they come available, we'll give them away at the end of January. Stay tuned for more details. Check out all our socials, at the Dew Sweeper on Instagram, at DewsweeperTV on YouTube. Go to DewsweeperTV on YouTube, find the latest Pro Work episode, and #ProWork for an opportunity to win. Appreciate all our sponsors. Appreciate you following along. We've got some great stuff coming in 2025. More live lesson look-ins, more content. Hopefully we help you play better golf. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of this journey. So joining me here on the Tour Coach, one of my all-time faves. He's the West Coast Bureau Chief of the Dew Sweepers right there. I've got this student. He'll listen to this. His name's Josh. He always says left coast is the best coast, baby. He keeps telling me I got to come out there more. So anyways, Brady Riggs, Brady, always thanks. I know you've been battling the smoke out there, and hopefully everybody's staying safe out there. It's been a crazy few weeks for you guys out there in LA. Hopefully everybody's doing okay.
Everybody's good. Yeah, it's. I feel so bad for all the families that are displaced. I know a lot of people lost their homes, and it just kind of puts everything in perspective for sure. So just happy to have a golf conversation for sure. And the best thing about the East Coast, Tony, is you for sure, no doubt. Other than you, left coast is the best coast for sure.
I wouldn't even say I'm East, although I am mostly on the East Coast now. Everybody always asks, like, yes, I'm based out of Old Palm. That's where I really teach full time. Still spend a little time here in Mobile till I can move my wife down there. But I thought this would be an interesting topic today. You're back with you're helping some notable LPGA names, right? Daniel Tseng, Yani Tseng, Yani in particular we haven't heard much of in a while,
right?
And yet I thought it would be interesting because I've gone through this at times with players. It's totally different taking on a player who used to be great, gets lost and trying to find it, and but yet lots of recreational golfers or club level golfers or amateurs, mid-ams, whatever, go through a lot of the same stuff with, like, hey, I used to be really good. I can't figure my way back.
Right.
So when either one of those players comes to you, where the hell do you start?
Boy, that's the question, Tony, right? Like, where do you start? Because there's so much water under the bridge for a lot of players at that point. They developed, they got to the tour, won majors, best player in the world, number one in the world for 109 weeks. And then slowly it goes away,
Mm-hmm.
and like with a recreational player, you don't have to take as deep a dive.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit easier, I think, to decipher what really happened. And if you have a young player, developing player, I have a kid named Noah Scavo. I really love this kid. It's going to be great. But he was playing the best golf of his life in the summer. And I told him and his dad, it's going to go bad. It's going to go bad. Just enjoy the ride down the wave until it hits the shore, because it's going to get rough, and you can kind of predict those sorts of cycles, But when somebody who was great, who was the best in the world, isn't anymore, man, it's tough, because you're just trying to figure out what happened, where did things go wrong? And then, I asked this question of her, which I think might be relevant for a lot of people. As I said, what is your default right now? Show me the swing where you are right now. And she said to me, which one of the 10 do you want to see? I was like, oh man.
But don't you think that's what if we went to any club, we walked the range, and we walked up and down that tee, and you would get that answer from a lot of people.
Yes, you would. And I think that's the crazy thing. Like, the best players in the world are in the same boat, like they lost who they were when they were great. Mm-hmm. By trying things that, either they tried on their own or often what other teachers wanted to teach them to do. And they don't know who they are anymore. They don't have a swing anymore. They can't stand over the ball and hit a shot. They just don't own that. And that's a really tough thing. So I think the answer to your question about where do you start is, you start, in my opinion, when they were great. What was going on when you were great? Because that was the best in the world. That was a player who won majors. So we know that worked. I'd rather try to kind of go back to the future and figure out what was really great then and how much of that can we still do, rather than try a path that we don't know was going to work,
Right.
And in like her case specifically, she was a fader, she moved the ball left to right. That's the way she played golf. And she had all the typical traits of faders. The club head was out at P2, it was laid off at the top, it kicked out, it went left through impact. It was great. It was very repeatable. And then through different coaches and whatnot, they were trying to get her to hit a high draw. I mean, it's just completely antithetical to what she was when she was number one in the world. So she had never even been a tour player hitting a high draw. You know what I mean? She was never even a successful pro doing that, let alone the best in the world. So I just tried to go back to where she was great and try to build back from that place again, because we knew that worked.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I on a very different type of journey with that, somebody I taught a lot, spent a lot of time with, Smiley Kaufman, right? Who
Sure.
if he listens to this, he wouldn't argue and say he lost it, right? But now he's doing an unbelievable job broadcasting, and
He is.
great stuff in the world of golf, and his podcast and all his content's awesome. But like, I've done stuff going back, and I know I've sent pictures here. They're like, hey, this is what you used to do when it was good, right? And I think you and I certainly at times on this, we've been critical of technology and certain things. But like the one thing I do wish I'd have had, I always say, is I wish that when he played his very best, I would have had more of like the swing catalyst data and some of that stuff to be able to prove to them what they were doing, right?
Right.
Because I think the one thing that's hard, and I'd like, because you're right in the middle of this haystack now with these two ladies, like when they get so lost, sometimes it's even hard to convince them what the hell they used to do.
It's true. Yeah, and I think, like you said, you wish you would have had maybe some of the data points when they were doing great, because then you could use that also to help rebuild the picture again. It's like the puzzle it was formed perfect, and then all of a sudden all the pieces got broken up and there's no picture anymore of what it was. If at least you had a picture, you could go back to trying to rebuild it again.
Right.
And I think that's the hard part, is trying to figure out how much new stuff do we do? How much can we bring from the old? It's one of the things I think, and I think why you're enjoying doing that with the players that you have that are in similar situations, because it sort of challenges us to the core, as a teacher and a coach, and all of our experience that we've had to try and find a way to help this player find the joy of playing good again, when they lost it. And it's like you really want them to feel that way again and enjoy the game, because that's why both of these ladies are playing. Like if you ask both of them, and I have, why are you playing? You could retire. You were a Hall of Famer, It's like, because I want to play good again, and like in Danielle's case, she loves golf.
Yeah.
She doesn't maybe love all the things that happen around golf, but she loves golf. And
Right.
She loves to go play by herself still, and I think deep down, that's what still drives me as a coach, is to help, regardless of the player, have them find that joy again and play the way that they at least can feel good about themselves on the golf course in a tournament again.
Yeah. Now, and I think this applies to everybody. I'm curious. So like you mentioned there, like in the very front, beginning of this, you talked about how it slowly slips away. Right. And I think that there's warning signs in there for players. Right. And I think that for any golfer listening to us at any stage, that I think that you don't go from zero to totally dumbfounded and lost overnight. There's things along the way. And I think there's warning signs about that. One of the warning signs to me is when a player starts thinking that if they could make one change or one thing, that they would be infinitely better. Right. I've listened to Luke Guthrie, who's one of my favorite people I've ever taught. And he's having a little bit of a renaissance now with some great status on Korn Ferry. But I've listened to him talk. He was a top 60 player in the world at one time, long before I ever watched him hit a ball. And I remember him saying he was on the range, and I think it might have been Napa, but I'm not sure. And he was watching, it might have been Adam Scott, but somebody, and he was like, oh, I need to change to be able to, right? And then that started this long process of changing who he was as a player. And that's one of my gut feels, is that people change who they are, thinking that changing that's going to make them a whole bunch better. Curious your thoughts about what do you think are the warning signs and the things that start people going down that road away from, who they are.
Yeah, I think tour players are interesting because they all want to get better. They got to the tour because they kept trying to improve and get better. And then they get out there and they're like, man, I got to keep improving. And then they think they need to make a change in an area, and that's when it starts getting dangerous. And so whether it's a kid that I'm working with, an adult, whatever, I always tell them, like, look, you have to be very, very careful who you listen to, because what you're doing when you give somebody an opportunity to talk to you about your technique is you're trusting them with your talent.
Right.
And that's something that is very dangerous, you know. And if somebody has an agenda because they want you to swing a certain way technically because it suits their style or whatever, or they tell you, well, it'll make you more consistent, like the kiss of death of a teacher that doesn't know what they're talking about will say it'll make you more consistent. I always tell them, look, ask the question, like, why am I going to do this? How is that going to improve my contact on my face, my control over face and path, my spin, my trajectory, my power? Why am I making this change? If you can't come up with a specific chain of events that logically says, this is why you're doing this, and that's why you need to start making this change. If the words coming out of their mouth will just be more consistent, no, that's not good enough. And I think trusting the right people is where people go off the rails, you know. And you and I, we both had experience with the guy who we both taught, you know, and he had the best year of his career when he was working with you and with me, mostly with you that year, but he had the best year of his career. I mean, he was going in the right direction finally, and I had worked with him for 15 years at that point, and we talked and brought you in because I trust you, and the work got great. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he started listening to somebody else. And I don't think he can even make a cut on the Latin American tour right now.
I don't think he's got status on any of that now.
And it's a shame because, like, this is what happens. And so regardless of, I think, the level of the player, who you trust with your talent is critical. And you have to be extremely careful that you're putting your livelihood in the hands of somebody else who may not know enough to help you or may have their own interests at heart. And that's a dangerous game to play with your career.
And I also think that for any level of golfer, like, if anybody tells you that they know something or that one thing they can tell you in an hour is going to dramatically change you, and you're going to go from a 5 handicap to a +3, or you're going to go from a 15 to a 5, I mean, it's probably not accurate, right? And you know, to me, a lot of the slips and the pitfalls that I see people of all levels looking for like something big that they think that's going to change them, and they neglect paying attention to the little things that they did that made them really good or good at their level, right? Like, you know, and I mean, like, you and I talked the other day on the phone, and we talked about shit that actually works, right? And like, it's not glamorous to fix somebody's ball position,
no,
or fix how they're standing to the ball, or to just make them more balanced, right? But like, sometimes, to me, sometimes that's the thing that starts a person going down the road that's not hitting it good, and they totally forget all that stuff, and they're looking for something big that's wrong, and maybe there wasn't anything wrong there to begin with.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar, zero patience for slow walkers, those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night, have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. You know, I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Becoming the most valuable sports franchise in the world doesn't happen without risk. A man who's willing to bet it all, and the players ready to make their own luck. America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, is the story of the 1990s Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones's impact on NFL history. Featuring interviews with iconic 90s players and more. Watch America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, August 19th, only on Netflix.
Yeah, boy, I think you've said exactly what I feel, which is people pick the wrong thing when it's usually something very simple, and then they start making changes, and then it's almost like there's no way back. Like if somebody's got the ball too far forward and they're a drawer, okay, they're going to have a hard time getting the path to the right and the face right, because it's just too far forward. So they'll start doing things in their swing that are different to try and organize face and path to create the shot shape. And they still might be able to do it. It just doesn't feel right, or something, contact's wrong or whatever. And then they're looking at their swing and they're saying, well, that changed from where it was, like all of a sudden my numbers are different, or the video says I'm sliding more. It's like, okay, but why? Why are you doing those things? And it was the ball position. Like you say, it's not glamorous, but I think in the shit that works department, finding the thing that's set up first that's screwing up everything is job one. Like if you have got to check those boxes off: distance from the ball, ball position, posture, grip, what's going on in there? Something's up at setup that might be changing everything. Can we change that and then fix everything afterwards? Boy, that'd be great. And the better teacher always fixes it at setup if they can. Sometimes you can't. But you go there first, because you and I both know, having taught I don't know how many thousands of lessons, that you can get into the weeds in the transition and look at pressure shifts and all kinds of stuff. But sometimes it's the freaking alignment or the ball position. And you can save all that trouble and make a massive impact in literally a minute by doing the most simple of things.
I also think, and I've told you this before, and I always think too that the better the player, the more it's set up and you fix it before they get to the top.
I agree with you.
Work with higher handicap, mid-handicap club level players, I feel like you got to do some stuff helping them get through the ball, because they're not as good. Maybe they're not as good athletes, or they haven't gotten into some good positions. But you take somebody that's been really good, whether it's at a club level to a tour, and you get them in the spot that they know how to get to the ball from there, they're going to probably, to me, they always kind of figure out how the hell to do it themselves.
Right.
And I think, like you talked about when you were talking about Yanni and Danielle, and you were talking about hey, I know this is what works. It's like when a player comes to me that's been really good, I always go back. The first thing I do is look at how did they stand, and how was, and almost always to me, that's one of the first things you see is well, shit, their posture is way different than it was. Or the ball's in a way different place or whatever than it used to be. It's amazing to me how often that's the case.
Well, based on exactly what you said, imagine you are this much further away from the ball, and you do that same amount for a week, and then it's 2 weeks, and then it's a month. Well, now you're this much further from the ball. That's going to change your posture. It's going to change how the club is sitting on the ground. You can't work in on the same angles through impact to get to the center of the face. Everything's adjusting. And of course things move around. We know that, and really, really good players don't move around as much. Their setup is much more consistent over time. But the problem is if you don't know to look for that little incremental difference in setup, then you start looking at wrist flexion, or whatever the heck you're looking at. And it's okay, that we're in the wrong place. We got to get back to if we can make the setup as similar to where it was when you were great, at least I can check that off the list, and then I can move into the next thing, but until I look at a setup and say, that looks a lot like it used to, I feel like that would create the possibility of getting back to where you were. And then something else is still jacked up. Okay, we got to move off of that, but I think at least we got that in the right place.
Yes.
But to build it backwards is ludicrous. To try and come into well, something's going on at P6. Well, that's ridiculous, man. P6 is just P1 through 5 added up,
Right.
And something was wrong before that,
Well, and I think that, and then I also think that people that where they go start trying to like, oh, we just got to clean up impact or something like that. I mean, it's like, well, that, like you said, that's shit happens because of everything that happened before.
Right. And I think there's that. Of course, there are times when you gotta blow it up. We both have been there, and I would say, like, just on that point, which is really interesting. Like Yanni's the bravest student I've ever worked with ever. She's the bravest student,
Wow.
and I'll tell you why. So she came to me and she said everything's horrible, full swing, short game, putting is horrible. I have the yips, everything's. So she literally everything was horrible. And she had the best attitude I've ever seen in a student. But the thing she did was amazing. She started to hit it really, really good going to the British Open last year. It was blowing 40 in the first round. She hits 15 greens. Okay. And she shoots 3 over. And his putting was not very good. And I had told her before she went to the Open, I said, look, we're going to give you one more tournament with this putting the way it is. And if it's not better, then I'm going to do something. And she's like, okay. Second round hits it better and shoots 5 over. And
Wow.
she tells me, and she gets done, she's like, I could not make a putt. I missed 8 putts inside 6 feet. That's rough.
Yeah.
And
Hard to
so
score.
she told me this great story, and she probably would be okay with me telling you. She said, when I was hitting the irons really good a few years ago, I had to aim 20 feet from the hole because I was hitting it so good. I was hitting it right where I was aiming, and I didn't want to leave myself 4 or 5 feet because I knew I couldn't make that. So I'd aim 20 feet away, so I'd give myself a 20-footer instead of a 5-footer. That's how bad she was putting.
Wow.
So after looking at the mechanics and doing all kinds of stuff, we tried some stuff, and she got back from the Open. I said, okay, I want you to go to Callaway, and I want you to tell them to build you a left-handed putter. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, we're not. Once you have your condition this bad, it's never going to go away. We got to start over. And so she went down, got a left-handed putter, and this is why I think she's the bravest student I've ever worked with, and literally just started putting left-handed. And it was so cool because she said, after like a day or two, she's like, I love putting right now. I'm having so much fun putting as I don't feel bad over any putt.
What made you go to the left hand with her?
Last resort. Like we tried the claw and the saw and the left hand low and the right. I mean, we changed everything we could possibly change, but like once your brain is wiring into the yips, the only way out of that is to completely change the direction that you putt from. It will fix it. It's not easy to line the face up, but it'll fix it. And what was crazy was she went to Taiwan to play a couple tournaments, and she had her first top 10 like 5 years, which was so exciting, But she sent me the videos of like the coverage, and it had one of her making like an 8-footer downhill right to left, really slippery, and she made it. And it was so exciting, to say like, man, that kid's got some courage, I mean, think about all the scrutiny from every other tour player, right, that knows you, and everyone that has ever known you. And now you're on the putting green, putting left-handed. And she said in her practice rounds, people were standing on the wrong side of her when she had a putt because they were used to putting from
They're used to it,
yeah,
right?
they're used to her being right-handed. But like it took a lot of courage to do that,
Mm-hmm.
But there was a reason, is that I couldn't get her back to any kind of decent place right-handed. So she went left-handed. And what's crazy is mechanically, her stroke is 1,000,000 times better left-handed.
Wow.
It's nuts. So like, I think we're on both ends of the spectrum, right? Go back to where you were in the past, try and dig that up and see if we can conjure up that fade that was so great.
Yeah.
Or blow the whole thing up in a different part of your game and go a totally different direction. And like I said, that's why I love these kind of challenges, because it's still a work in progress. We're trying to get her there, but it's the journey that's so fun. It's crazy.
That's awesome. That's great stuff there. I just was curious how you got to that point, because I've been around folks obviously that have had yips and putting trouble, and I mean that's I think the one thing that's great there was that she was open. He said she was the bravest player, because a lot of people aren't willing to make those changes. Right.
You know, it's funny you said that because the reason I didn't come up with this myself. Like I had been studying Mayo Clinic stuff, and then I had a guy named Larry Stein who I love. He has a podcast. He'd love to have you on one time. Great dude from LA, but he had horrible yips. Couldn't make a 18-inch putt.
Really?
Could not. And so he went down to see Dave Phillips down at Titleist because he's down there all the time. And this is years and years ago. I think 15 years ago, maybe 20 now. But he went down there to see Dave Phillips, and Dave said, you know what, Larry, we've tried everything. You got to start putting left-handed. Your brain is wired so that you will always have the yips right-handed. And so he's been putting left-handed for over a decade, and I give Dave Phillips tons of credit for that. But it was just becomes one of those other things, in our back pocket as teachers that we've heard from somebody else, or we saw somebody else go that route. My great uncle, I don't know if you ever knew this, played in 4 U.S. Opens.
No way.
Yeah, he was a great player down in Litchfield Park, Arizona, at a place called the Wigwam.
Yeah.
And he had the yips, horrible yips. And so when he was 30 years old, he started putting left-handed because he had the yips, and he forever putted left-handed until he stopped playing golf at 92. So it's been a way to fix it for a very long time. It's drastic, but for somebody who stands over a ball and is that horrified, it's like it's like the elixir that cures all ills. To just not feel that way and to be able to stand over and say, I can actually make this putt.
Now, how long did it take from switching to left just before she felt comfortable on the greens, and then her putting mechanics, especially from a tour player perspective, were pretty good?
I'd say her putting mechanics were instantly massively better without ever telling her one thing about how to putt left-handed. Like she had the classic, head would go way back right-handed, and move way back, and nothing, no movement at all left-handed. She looks like Tiger. It's uncanny how good it looks, And then if it's on my Instagram at RedGoat, if anybody's interested, you could go see the right and left-handed next to each other. It's fascinating. But the thing about it, you said something really important, is like as a tour player, the thing she struggles with, which everybody struggles with when you go to left-handed if you have the yips, is aiming the face.
Right.
Aiming the face becomes really, really difficult because you don't have a lifetime of experience aiming the face, And so that took some practice. And we were actually with her 2 days ago, we were working on aiming the face with the putter face. Because when her stroke is amazing. Like she'll make 10, 12, 8-footers in a row. But if we can get the ball lined up correctly and the face lined up correctly, she's not missing. So now we just got to work on the skill of actually aiming the face because the stroke is really, really good. So I think the comfort level was instant because she wasn't feeling so yippy. But the confidence of aiming the face is the thing that's taking a little time, but she's putting night and day better. It's nuts. I just think it's so cool that like you said, she had an open mind. It's a big deal.
Last couple of questions. Where did you go in her golf swing? You talked about getting her back to being a fader. Like what things did you tackle with her to get her back to hitting a fade?
I first had to get in her head and try and figure out what was going on, what was she thinking during the swing, what she was trying to do. And she's told me that when she was looking more like a draw, her swing looked great. And everybody's like, wow, your swing's amazing. She goes, but I couldn't hit it on the world, And it's like, it just shows you how unimportant that is, Like now, takeaway way out at P2 is her best place. Because then at the top, it'll lay off a little. And then when it lays off a little, it actually kicks even more laid off in transition. Now it's way out there and it can come around her to get to the ball, And then we get enough of a left path. And then she needs to feel like she's throwing the club head to the left as much as possible. So we did a lot of helicopter swings, trying to get her to helicopter the finish, anything to get the club head lively down there and aggressively going in the right direction. And then what's interesting, I'll just pile in this one last piece, is that with her short game, same bad mechanics like her putting, head going backwards and all that. And I told her, I'm like, you need to hit a shot. We need to hit either a draw pitch or a slice pitch. No more trying to be neutral. That's out the window.
I love that.
And so now all the short game shots she hits, she's either drawing or she's fading. But she's standing over the ball with a plan, And, like she said to me when we first started, I could hit it in the trees and hit a great shot out of the trees. I just couldn't hit it from the middle of the fairway. When she had a picture, she could do it. And I think that's the big piece, is like change the technique to give her a chance to access the picture in her mind to make the swing produce that shot.
That's great.
So it's been fun, man. And she's a great person. Love her.
On a side note, before I let you go, I played last week and I hit some beautiful draws and in iron shots in there. You'd have been so proud of me.
You know what's funny? Quick point on that, TR. I spent 2024 drawing it. I said I'm going to draw it all year. And so I drew it all year. It was fantastic. So me, a fader, I drew it all year long because I wanted to challenge myself. So I have a challenge for you. Ready?
Yeah.
I want to set up a tournament where you have to play 36 holes in a day. And the first round, you have to hit it right to left or left to right. You got to switch it after 18 holes. And you have 5 wild card shots. Either you hit the wrong curve or you needed to hit the other curve based on the shot, the tree that's in your way or whatever. And then we add them up at the end. And if you hit the wrong shot after your 5 wild cards, it's a 2-shot penalty.
I'm in. Let's do that.
How fun would that be, man? We'd be out there. It'd be a barrel of laughs.
But, and on a side note too, though, like I'm trying to play more. And I was telling Wayne Flint this earlier on the phone today. I've been actually playing better. And the thing I've been focusing most on has been trying to every shot be committed to where I'm trying to start it, where I'm trying to finish it, curve every shot one way or the other. It really has helped. I mean, and I know that like people go, well, no shit, right? But like it's amazing how often we get away from that, right? Teaching, coaching great players, and yet we still and if we forget that, the 10 handicapper, the 12 handicapper, and the tour player get away from it sometimes too.
That's why it helps when we play, because it reminds us of some of those things that we need to keep reminding our students for sure.
Brady, awesome stuff as always. Thanks for sitting in. Continued luck. Everybody give him a follow. Red Goat. He's the best.
That Red Goat.
It's not red anymore, but we'll let him slide.
There's some red in here in places,
Shit, it's Gray Goat. We're going to get a Gray Goat. You're the best. Look forward to seeing you soon.
See you, Tony. Be good, buddy.